Today, I'm going to show you guys how you can potentially have your own lawyer at your disposal for free. Now, this is something that I recently discovered with the Chat GPT AI app that is basically still free. So you guys should definitely go use it. You can go get a free account right now. You just go to chat.openai.com. Get it while it's free. I don't know if they're going to keep it free forever. But I know that as we work with production music libraries and publishers and just various people in the music industry, a lot of times we get confused by legalese. Legalese is just a fancy way of saying made up, complicated language that lawyers use to justify themselves for why they charge us so much money to review contracts and write them up for us. So the real promise, one of the many promises of AI is that we are going to not have to rely on very expensive lawyers to negotiate contracts and basically just understand contracts. So in this quick tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can use this free app online to basically plug in maybe complicated and convoluted legal language like what you see on the screen right here, and have it explain it to you like you're a first grader. Now, before we get into that, big disclaimer, I am not a lawyer and Chat GPT is not a lawyer either. It's not your lawyer. So of course, this is not legal advice, and you should never take anything that you hear on YouTube, especially from my channel, as legal advice. And also, if you do receive a contract with confusing or convoluted language from a music library, before you go to ChatGPT, the best thing I advise you guys to do is to go right back to that library and ask them for clarification, okay? So ChatGPT is not foolproof, and it can make mistakes and it can misunderstand things. They can potentially not get things right. So it's a better idea to go right to the source of whoever created that contract with you. Ask them for clarification. If they give you clarification, they help walk you through it, help you understand it, and it feels right. Really, really good sign that you're working with a legitimate, upfront, honest, and ethical company. If they flake on you, if they give you a hard time, if they say, hey, you're giving us a bunch of headaches, like we don't need this, either sign it or move on, probably some sort of a potential red flag there that maybe you might want to move on to a different company that's willing to take more time with you, okay? So you might have received legal language in some contract, or if you haven't, you might in the future, where it'll say something nonsensical like, notwithstanding anything contained herein to the contrary. Why does it have to say all that? You shall have the right to collect, and we agree not to collect on your behalf 100% of your so-called writer's share of public performance income derived from any use of placement of the compositions. We shall own and hereby irrevocably and absolutely assign, convey, and grant to us our successors and assigns 100%. It's so convoluted. It's just like, why does it have to be this complicated? Well, enter ChatGPT and maybe it can actually help us. So what I'm going to do right now is actually just copy all of this nonsense, legal nonsense, and I'm going to show you guys how I could use ChatGPT to basically help make sense of this for myself, okay? So first we're going to prime it. We're going to basically give it a prompt to sort of let it know what we want it to do. So you wouldn't want to just probably copy and paste all of that. You want to first let ChatGPT know what you want it to do. So I would first ask it, can you help me understand some legal language, something simple like that. Says, of course, I'd be happy to help you understand legal language. Please provide me with a specific legal term or phrase you would like to know more about, and I'll provide you with an explanation of the best of my ability. Okay, I'm going to do this. Can you help me understand this legal language? And then I'm going to put a little colon, and then I'm going to copy or paste all that nonsense legal language, and let's see what it does. Okay. So it's already summarizing what I've done. Let me go ahead and make this a little bit bigger so we can read it together. So provided several provisions related to the ownership and collection of public performance income from compositions. Here's a breakdown. So it basically broke it down into points. So, it's still pretty lengthy here. I'm not necessarily wanting to read a book. So it does sort of create like some kind of structure to the language, and I think point by point, maybe that would help. But that's a little too convoluted for me. I like to find things much easier. I'd say something like this to make it better. Can you summarize all of that for me as if I were 5 years old? Let's see what it does. Sure. Here's a simplified summary for a 5-year-old. This is much more digestible for me, at least. Number one, you can collect all the money you make from your songs when people play them in public, and nobody else can collect it for you. Cool. That's a lot simpler than what they said in the contract. But the other party will own everything about your songs, like the words and the music, and they get to decide what to do with them. Okay, I may or may not be comfortable with that. Now I'm very clear on what that's saying. Your songs will be registered with the government, but under the other party's name. So the music library that offered this to me. Okay. The music library gets to decide how your songs are used all over the world forever. Okay. So I like this a lot better than what I was seeing before, because this really helps me understand, okay, this is the basic gist of what they're asking from me, what they're going to provide, and then what they're taking in return. So that's actually very, very helpful. Let's try one more. See if I can get the other window back that I had. All right, so here's a doozy. I'm not even going to read this. This is just so long, and it's so intense that it gives me a headache just looking at it. So let's actually go back to Chat GPT. I've copied it, and let's skip the first part where I was summarizing it in still kind of some lengthy language. Can you summarize this legal language for me and explain it to me as if I were 5 years old? And let's paste that bad boy in there and let's see what it can do. 5 bullet points, okay? From all of this, right? Which I'm sure I'd get a headache even reading that, to 5 bullet points. You promise that you own everything about your music, like the words and the sounds, and that nobody else has any rights to it. Clear. You promise that your music is new and original and doesn't copy anybody else's music or break any rules. You promise that you haven't sold or given away your music to anyone else, and you won't do that without following the rules in this agreement. You promise that you've paid for everything related to your music, like making it and using it, and that doesn't break any rules, hurt anyone else's rights. I could put hurt anybody else's rights. That's great. You promise that there is no legal problems or fights about your music, and that you've gotten permission from everyone you need to before using their stuff in your music. Love this. Love, love, love this. This can certainly unlock so much potential for us as musicians because, you know, this day and age with everything going on in the world, we are being asked and required to become social media experts and not only producers and, you know, sort of creatives, but mixing and mastering engineers and oftentimes our own lawyers and figuring stuff out. So just to get some clarity around legal language, I'm sorry for those of you that are entertainment attorneys. If you're not aware that this is coming online and this is available to the world, I highly recommend you get curious about this technology and start adding it to your repertoire, because you can certainly be very helpful and useful to your clients to make things very, very accessible, especially to 5-year-olds, which most of us in our legal understanding, that's kind of the level that we're at, okay? So I hope you guys found this useful. And again, don't use this as a replacement for legal advice or for getting help or thinking, well, Jesse told me I can use this, so I'm just never going to console or get a consultation with somebody legally if I feel like I need to. Obviously, I still think that that is something where you could get a human being listening to you, hearing your situation, and giving you some helpful advice. That would always be something that would be wise and smart. But this is the promise of AI, and this is one tiny, 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 tiny little application of it. I'm going to definitely be adding more videos and more insights like this to my channel. So if you're new, make sure you hit subscribe, hit like if you found this useful, and stay tuned because I'm going to be putting together a bunch of new tutorials just like this on this channel.